especially one with the desire to clamp down on certain political situations, then I would never trust them. I would never trust it.
Well, staying on the subject of backdoors and tracking, I suppose this is relevant, semi-relevant. It's just a very quick article which I was going to throw in. This one's from the Register. It caught my attention today in the last few hours, and it's in regards to T-Mobile. Funny enough, my service provider for my mobile phone, but this is T-Mobile in the US. And T-Mobile have developed a service, if you will, a feature where parents can track their teenagers and their location when they've got obviously got these mobile phones, an Android handset, and a T-Mobile subscription. The interesting part about this is apparently it stops the kids or the teenagers from texting whilst driving and receiving telephone calls whilst driving, obviously in an attempt to prevent them from being distracted and have a car accident or something similar. Really rather a bit silly because obviously kids get on buses, kids get on trains, and if the phone's going to sort of lock out when they're moving at speed, there's a plethora of reasons why they could be moving at speed, not necessarily driving. But it does signal for me a rather worrying trend, or at least display how worryingly easy it is to have the control to track people via their mobile phones or by any medium. So I was just really throwing that one in. That's going to be on the show notes. It's the Register that reported on it, and as usual, it's a very interesting article. So I'd recommend you go over.
Features implemented. They usually, when you try to implement something that's controversial, you have a way of trying to show it to the public in a way that's positive. So things like trying to design rockets to launch weapons to enemy territories can be spun off as we go into space, or we explore new ways of making Teflon for, frying pans, things like that. So when you're talking about trying to gauge people's speed around there, you actually have the code available then to do that and to trigger all kinds of things. Now, the next thing you might have is people trying to predict based on the movement. Are you a suspicious person? Maybe you're a terrorist or something, and then trying to disable all kinds of things for people. In some cases, you might even want to not just track people, but also invoke certain actions automatically. Things like microphones speaking to you, cameras speaking to you, or something trying to listen to you. You have, in Birmingham
right.
now, I know it's kind of off topic, but now I think in Birmingham they have this thing that says, well, that's supposed to detect sounds from gunshots or something, kind of like a person might do. And then they put microphones to do that. And I say, I'm not sure you need a microphone to do that. It's kind of like a way of finding an excuse to put things that will listen to people as they speak and things like that. That's what people say. That's not what I say.
Right. There's one thing that maybe it's just my twisted imagination, but on the thing that if it prevents people from making phone calls when traveling at speed, just hope to hell your teenage daughter doesn't get locked in the boot by an abusive boyfriend, being driven somewhere, and she's got her mobile phone desperately trying to call for help as she's been driven to who knows what, and the phone won't work.
Yeah.
Just 2 hours, 3 hours ago, I had a conversation in the car. It was about the steering wheel and about the things like the belt, the safety belt, and the conversation was about, like, I'm not sure how long ago, but many years ago, people were talking about, should you be forced to wear the belt, or should it be just something that you might do if you think it makes you safer? And the conversation, the direction of the conversation was, what happens if you get flipped over and then you have the belt on you? Is it really safer to always have the belt on you in all circumstances? Now, of course, I think it's better from a probabilistic point of view, but some people actually think it isn't quite as good. So you always have those two sides. And here, too, you're talking about disabling people's phones, and the phones are supposed to be means of communicating also in cases of emergency, like something being hijacked, like a car or a bus or something like that. And when you disable people's means of communication with the intention of doing good, you also restrict people's ability to do some good things with them. So,
yeah, I mean the other point, and I do like to sit on the fence a little bit, and certainly on this case, I probably do more so than most other subjects. There are some encouraging practical uses. I remember a while ago on the news there was an article about and some controversy surrounding putting trackers on people that are suffering from forms of dementia, where they want to give people want their freedom, but they're at risk when they leave the property. They may get lost. They could suffer an injury as a result of not being able to know where they are. And it was suggested that a tracking device would give people suffering from these conditions freedom, and also keeping them safe. So it does have a plus to it. I just think pushing it on in this way seems to be badly thought out. Sorry.
You just know that. And if this gets the go-ahead and it gets some official backing, some funding from government circles to make it official, you can bet your ass Microsoft are going to be right up there like a rat up a drain pipe.
They have been doing this since 2008, by the way. They have been.
Which means that they'll insist the only secure way for this data and this tracking to happen is on Microsoft servers. Yes, that's the way to go. And you can only use it with Windows, and so you can bet every paedophile within 100 yards, 100 miles, is going to look at that and go, right, let's see what kind of kids are being tracked, and let's find out their exact location. Right, there's some wee lassie, she's coming round to McDonald's just now, just sitting waiting for her.
I mean, this is always the way, though. I mean, whenever a new tech, we've all seen it 1,000 times before. A new technology is released, and there's always ways that it's twisted for decent purposes, twisted for bad purposes, and obviously good purposes as well. And I think that's the internet all over. There's very good uses of it, and there's abuses of it as well.
That's it. You can never, any time any kind of government approved program like this, not even government approved, but major sort of mainstream thing, it's always tends to be badly implemented by the actual choices and the partners they sign up with, invariably Microsoft, and built on Microsoft technology, and that ruins the whole idea. If it was properly implemented with the right strategic goals in mind, and actually built for the purpose, then it might have some practical use, but it won't be. It'll be well over budget, it'll be a drain for the taxpayers, and it just won't work as intended, it won't be secure, and it'll have all these loopholes in it. Call me cynical, I've seen it happen too many times.
Quite a few years back, I think in 2008, it was Microsoft which tried to label this thing. They call it digital manners, which is a really kind of euphemistic name for what they were trying to sell as a kind of a copyright enforcing device. The point was that they call it manners. It would take over basically cameras and disable the cameras under certain circumstances. Now, you might think it's going to, I don't know, prevent people from doing malicious things like, I don't know, taking pictures of naked people. But in practice, it was more to do with if you enter a museum, your camera is going to not work anymore. And the reason, of course, it's things like copyrights. So trying to use this technology as a justification for scarcity is quite a concerning thing, especially when the company wants to force you to have this. It's not a feature you're supposed to be able to choose to have in your camera. The camera is supposed to have it as part of it. It's just a form of DRM, basically.
Yeah. Well, if we can stick on the subject of Microsoft and phones, I'll just hijack the mic for a little bit longer with my other article that I was going to bring up today, and that's in regards to the phantom data issue, which was reported early in the beginning of the year. It appears that there has been some confirmation by Microsoft. Now, I know this has been reported quite widely, and we've had a discussion a few times on the TechBytes show already about it, but it's now been, I suppose, officially confirmed that there is a problem and they are looking into it. What was interesting about the particular press release I'm looking at, which is with the BBC, and many people have views on the BBC's priorities when it comes to Microsoft. But the interesting thing about the article was that they obviously, like I say, they've acknowledged the problem, and they've acknowledged it's on a small. They claim it's on a small percentage of Windows Phone customers.
Oh, people pay £10,000 $10,000 in bills for their telephones.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that makes me smile wryly was the the quote here, I'll just read it straight, ad-lib from the BBC site. And it's, the firm also said it was looking into potential workarounds until the issue was solved. Well, I don't know about anybody else here, but from my experience with Microsoft products, workarounds were sort of your staple diet and your daily chore. I